Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum in here, and I'm going to keep my eye out for other board members and liaisons joining. So I think you're good to go ahead and start now.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. Certainly I will. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Access Board's January 2026 virtual meeting of the full board, the first board meeting for the year. My name is Elber Ariza Silva, Access Board Chair, and at this time, I would like to call this meeting to order. With me are Sachin Pavitran, Executive Director, Christopher Kuczynski, General Counsel, and many of my fellow board members. On the agenda today, we have two scheduled votes. Plus, we will hear the Executive Director's report, followed by reports from each of the standing committee chairs. Before we begin, as this is a virtual meeting, there are some housekeeping rules. Keep cameras and microphones off at all the time until recognized to speak. And if you are going to speak, please turn your camera on. Board members and staff should state your name before speaking. Finally, if the need arises, board members and federal liaisons should direct any chat communications toward the co-host named Chat Monitor. This staff member will help pass along your message to the relevant support staff. Now, Mr. David O'Keefe, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. First, Elver Ariza Silva.
Present.
Thank you. Olivia Asuncion.
Present.
Thank you. Muffy Davis.
Present.
Thank you. Department of Justice, Harmeet Dillon.
Yes, this is Andy Washburn from the Disability Rights section on behalf of Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon. We have provided a proxy to the chair.
Thank you, sir. Heather Dowdy.
Hello, present.
Thank you. Stephanie Enyart.
Hi, present.
Thank you. General Services Administration.
Hi, David Lattis, present.
Thank you. Tina Gannett.
Present.
Thank you. Amy Hamrai.
Present.
Thank you. Department of Labor, Julie Hocker.
Present.
Thank you. Department of Veterans Affairs, Jessica Kaplan.
Present.
Thank you. Alexis Kashar.
Present.
Thank you. U.S. Postal Service, Benjamin Kuo.
Present.
Thank you. K.R. Liu. Benjamin Nadolski.
Present.
Thank you. Madeline Ruvalo.
Present.
Thank you. Betty Siegel.
Present.
Thank you. Department of Transportation, Lauren Smith.
Good afternoon. This is Luisa Guerra Young on behalf of Lauren Smith, and we've provided our proxy.
Thank you, ma'am. Department of Health and Human Services, Mary Lazar.
Good afternoon. This is Brian Bard here for Mary Lazare.
Thank you. Department of the Interior.
Good afternoon, Sloan Farrell, Liaison for Department of Interior, proxy to the Vice Chair, please.
Thank you. Department of War, Department of Education,
Tanya Steller, Federal Liaison from the U.S. Department of Education for the Acting Assistant Secretary of the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, Kimberly Ritchie.
thank you. And Department of Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. David. And as we have a quorum, we move on to the two scheduled votes. First, it is the approval of minutes. You all have had a chance to review the draft April 2025 meeting minutes provided in your packet. If there are any corrections or edits, please speak now. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the April 2025 draft meeting minutes?
So moved.
This is Tina. I will make that motion.
So it is moved. So do I have a second?
Ben Quill, United States Postal Service, second.
Thank you very much. Approval of the draft April 2025 meeting minutes has been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstained? The motion carries. Thank you very much. We will now proceed to consideration of the Advance Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, ANPRM, on Universal Charging Stations. The FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024 directs the Access Board to establish comprehensive, accessible design standards for universal changing tables and standards on the privacy, accessibility, and sanitation equipment of the room in which these tables are located. These universal changing stations will be required as of 2030 or 2030. In medium or large hub airports seeking airport development project grants from the Department of Transportation. As the draft ANPRM explains, a universal changing table, also known as an adult changing table, is a table on which an individual with a disability receives assistance from a caregiver with toileting. Universal changing tables are larger and sturdier than baby changing tables and are designed to promote dignity and privacy for individuals who need assistance with personal care. Universal changing stations include the changing table, the space in which is located, and any additional elements such as those that promote privacy and sanitation in connection with use of the table. The ANPRM, or the Advance Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, asks the public a series of questions concerning the appropriate standards the Access Board should adopt and the potential cost to airports required to comply. Access Board staff provided 2 briefings for board members and federal liaisons in September 2025. Received comments on the draft ANPRM from several agencies and one public board member, and made some revisions to the ANPRM in light of these comments. The board vote today is whether to approve sending the draft ANPRM to the Office of Management and Budget for review. Is there a motion, please?
I motion.
It is moved. Do I have a second?
I second.
I will second.
Thank you both. Is there any discussion? Since there are no further questions or discussion, we will proceed to a vote. Please, Mr. David, call the roll. Call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Elver Ariza Silva.
Aye.
Thank you. Olivia Asuncion.
Aye.
Thank you. Muffy Davis.
Aye.
Thank you. Department of Justice, Harmeet Dillon.
Mr. Chair, you may cast Harmeet's vote as a yes.
Thank you. Heather Dowdy.
Aye.
Thank you. Stephanie Enyart.
Aye.
Thank you. Tina Gannett.
Aye.
Thank you. Amy Hamrai.
Aye.
Thank you. Department of Labor, Julie Hocker.
Aye.
Thank you. Department of Veterans Affairs, Jessica Kaplan.
Aye.
Thank you. Alexis Kashar.
Aye.
Thank you. U.S. Postal Service, Benjamin Kuo.
Aye.
Thank you. K.R. Liu. Benjamin Nadolski.
Aye.
Thank you. Madeline Ruvalo.
Aye.
Thank you. Betty Siegel.
Aye.
Thank you. Department of Transportation, Lauren Smith.
Louisa Guerra Young on behalf of Lauren Smith. Aye.
Thank you. And Department of Health and Human Services, Mary Lazare.
Proxy to the chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. David, and thank you, everyone, indeed. Now we are going to continue with the next item of our agenda for this afternoon, and that is the Executive Director's Report. Dr. Sachin, it's time for the Executive Director's Report to the board. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our board meeting today. And it's been a long time since we've had this opportunity to convene as a board, since I believe the last board meeting we've had, which was prior to our out-of-town meeting, which was early last year during April. So thank you for all of you joining, and I do want to recognize all the staff and members of our team that is helping us in the background in making this board meeting happen. I'll be joined by my colleague Allison Levy as well in giving this report. I'm going to start it off and I'll hand it over to her in a minute. But to start off with, I do want to talk a little bit about the rulemaking. Since last year, there's been several executive orders that was passed. One of the executive order is EO 14192, unleashing prosperity through deregulation. And with that executive order in place, Access Board had to move certain rulemakings to inactive status. So those were our EV charging station rulemaking that was pending, self-service transaction machines, rail vehicles, and passenger vessels. All those 4 rulemakings had to be moved to inactive status. Spring agenda was published in September. There was a delay in publishing of the spring agendas across the government, and our agenda was finally published September 4th. In doing so, we did notify that we'll be working on the ANPRM that you just heard about the university changing tables. So that will be moving on to OMB for the next step in the ANPRM process. Along with the ANPRM, Access Board will be working on Section 504 implementation of the Access Board. So this will be internal regulation for the Access Board. So Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and also updating our regulation on Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. So those are internal regulation. These 3 rulemaking process, that is the ANPRM, the Section 504, and the FOIA, is outside the executive orders, so it does not conflict with what the executive order states. So we will be working on those 3 pieces, and we have been given permission by OMB to proceed with those. The next I want to touch about is our Architectural Barriers Act enforcement. As you all may know, ABA enforcement is the primary reason that Access Board was founded over 50 years ago. So we play an active role in ensuring accessibility of federal facilities, whether it's leased or owned by the federal government. That is one authority that we do have for enforcement, and the staff of Access Board has been playing an active role in ensuring that enforcement does take place. Since April 1st of 2025 to December of 2025, we have received 118 complaints, out of which complaints we have closed also in 2025, 143 complaints. Some of these complaints are carried over from previous fiscal year as well. So in this last fiscal year, we have closed 143 complaints, which consist of complaints from previous fiscal year as well. We referred 87 cases to other federal agencies where we found that it was not under the ABA jurisdiction. And 36 cases out of those ones needed corrective actions, and we've been working on those cases and have closed 36 of them. We also conducted 2 site visits last summer in the Seattle area to assess accessibility of Navy bases, and we are in the process of finalizing the reports for those assessments that we did in those federal facilities for the Navy bases. Next, I'm going to have my colleague Allison Levy step in to talk about the technical assistance and training that the Access Board has been involved over the last fiscal year.
Thank you, Sachin. During fiscal year 2025, the Office of Technical and Information Services, known as OTIS, managed almost 5,000 requests for technical assistance. The Access Board sponsored and/or conducted a total of 78 trainings and webinars, reaching over 14,500 participants. The Built Environment webinars included a wide range of topics, including but not limited to accessible spa resorts, bus and van transportation, accessibility in historic buildings and facilities, polling places, and ABA accessibility for these facilities. The Section 508 webinar series included topics such as strategies for creating accessible social media content, the National Park Service's Accessible Media Player, PDFs and document accessibility, and a journey through global accessibility laws. The Access Board's YouTube channel tracked over 41,000 views for FY25. Followed by the Artificial Intelligence series and PROAG training, over half the views were for animations. In the first quarter of fiscal year 26, we tracked over 6,000 views of the animations posted to the U.S. Access Board YouTube channel. Also during the first quarter of 2026, OTIS answered over 600 technical assistance requests, and we delivered one webinar on missed or misunderstood accessible design requirements and one training reaching almost 900 participants. Our Section 508 staff person continued serving as a subject matter expert and leader on accessible information and communication technology. The following are key FY25 highlights, some that continued into the first quarter of the current fiscal year. Staff tested and reported on Section 508 conformance for various information and communication technology, including accessibility review and work on a major time and attendance tool used government-wide, and a video player that, after remediation of reported issues, was presented as a best practice for use at other federal agencies. In addition to developing and presenting regularly on digital accessibility, web print styles, and international accessibility laws, our ICT staff co-led the Section 508 ICT Testing Baseline Portfolio with GSA. Also during this reporting period, staff drafted Baseline for software and Baseline for hardware in collaboration with GSA and other federal partners. We also continued collaborating with the University of Maryland to develop workshops for Maryland web teams and a hybrid, automated, and manual web testing process that aligns with the Baseline for web. We also co-led teams in the World Wide Web Consortium, otherwise known as W3C, Accessibility Guidelines Working Group, whose membership consists of international and industry accessibility leaders to support the web content accessibility guidelines. We also collaborated with OMB and GSA to develop the FY25 government-wide Section 508 assessment criteria, support to agencies in completing their responses, and contributed to the drafting of the government-wide report to Congress. In the area of artificial intelligence, the Access Board participated in 2 panel discussions on AI during the third and fourth quarters of FY25, including a side event hosted by the Polish government at the 18th session of the Conference of States Parties, otherwise known as COSP18, to the Conference on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In addition, we presented at the National Council on Independent Living's annual conference. In the area of partnership engagements, Access Board staff continue to collaborate with the Health and Human Services Administration on Community Living's Older Americans Act Title VI grant program that provides nutrition and other support to elders on tribal lands. The Administration for Community Living, otherwise known as ACL, staff identified disability access to ceremonial spaces as a key quality of life issue for older tribal members. In 2023, the National Congress of American Indians passed a resolution encouraging tribes to enhance accessibility of ceremonial spaces and naming the Access Board as a resource for technical assistance. Since that time, board staff have engaged in person and virtually to better understand the range of accessibility barriers presented in ceremonial spaces and service areas such as program offices, so we may provide better technical assistance. In November 2024, board staff attended the Health and Human Services Traditional Healing Summit, both virtually and in person over 3 days. A roundtable session was held between tribal leaders, ACL leadership, and board staff to discuss accessibility needs and potential collaborative solutions. In March 2025, board staff attended and presented at the 2025 National Title VI Training and Technical Assistance Conference. Sessions included discussions of caregiving for older Native Americans with disabilities, other resources for older Native Americans, nutritional programs, fiscal training, and more. That concludes my portion. Sachin, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. As you can see, even though that Access Board has not been involved in as much rulemaking since the executive order, we stayed plenty busy in the technical assistance and training that we've been providing across the country. We have been heavily involved with different cities and other entities to ensure that our standards and guides are understood and how we can be better partners in providing better technical assistance for those organizations and entities. Our technical assistance does not stop with the request that comes from the U.S. alone. We have extensive partnership across the globe. We've been working with different countries, and we also get several visitors through the State Department where organizations and government officials want to learn about the work of the Access Board. We've also had opportunity to attend international conferences where Access Board staff have attended the Zero Project conference in Vienna, Austria, the Global Disability Summit in Berlin, Germany, and the Inclusive Africa Conference in Kenya. I've had the opportunity to provide keynotes and also sit on several panels during these conferences where we discuss the work of the Access Board, but also discuss different accessibility barriers that exist globally. Access Board continues to play a significant role in the accessibility conversation across the globe. I want to briefly touch on our social media presence. There's been a significant growth in our social media presence over the last year. Our LinkedIn profile has a 16% increase in followers, in Facebook 33%, and our news delivery system, which is GovDelivery that we use, has increased over 12,000 new enrollees since in this last fiscal year, which resulted in over 6.5 million views of our news releases over the last fiscal year, which is a pretty drastic increase from the previous fiscal year. The next I want to touch on our out-of-town board meeting that took place last July. So every year the Access Board has a board meeting in different location. In 2025, we met in New Orleans. During this town hall meeting, we had a town hall meeting. We engaged with local community partners. We learned about the various programs that exist within New Orleans, but also learning about the different barriers that still exist when it comes to accessibility. We were able to hear from advocates, we were able to hear from city officials, and also interact with the mayor of the city. During our town hall, we had over 25 advocates that testified. The topics covered from public transportation, public right-of-way, self-service transaction machines, Section 508 enforcement, design for people who are neurodivergent, air travel, and voting accessibility. So a huge spectrum of accessibility concerns were raised by advocates during the town hall, but we were also fortunate to have the mayor of New Orleans present during the entire time of the town hall so that she herself could hear from her constituents and others who are attending the town hall. So she had better grasp of what are the different barriers that still exist in New Orleans for people with disabilities. Our next out-of-town meeting will be happening this May in Providence, Rhode Island. We are looking forward to that meeting as well. Our public member, Tina Gurnett, has been playing a significant role in helping us organize this out-of-town meeting. So the board will be traveling this May, and we very much look forward to what we are going to learn from Rhode Island. The last, I do want to briefly touch on some staffing. Many of you know or have interacted with Rosemary Bonells. She served on the Access Board as a federal employee for about 40 years. She just retired last December after 40 years of federal service. We wish Rose best wishes for her retirement, and hope she has a great retirement and find new things to enjoy in this next chapter. I do want to mention another retirement that's coming up within the next month. Access Board has had a lot of retirements happen as of late. We have one more retirement coming up at the end of February. That's my colleague who you just heard from, the Director of Office of Information and Information Services. And that's Allison Levy. She will be retiring after 30 years of federal service. Allison has served as a federal employee on the Access Board, along with Department of Transportation and USDA. Allison has had a significant role in advancing accessibility across federal government, has played has influenced accessibility in many different ways, including reasonable accommodation and Section 508 accessibility. I do want to recognize Allison for her dedication to federal service and for the accomplishments she has had over the last 30 years. And I wish Allison the best. And I do want to ask Allison if she would like to share something to the board.
Well, that's unexpected. Thank you, Sachin, for your kind words. I just really appreciate all the opportunities I've had in my federal career and at the Access Board. It's been a real pleasure working with the staff and with you, Sachin, as well as all the board members. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I will carry these memories with me forward and look forward to not waking up at 5:15 a.m. to come to work. Thank you so much. Carry on.
Thank you, Allison. You will definitely be missed, and you know where to find us if you ever need to learn more about standards. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our agency update, and I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin, and thank you, Ms. Allison. You will be certainly missed, but wishing you the best in this new journey that you are going to start. I can tell that it has been a very busy year for the Access Board. And on the other hand, I can see that a lot of progress has been made. So thank you to everyone, indeed. Next, we are going to continue with the item in our agenda, which is the guest presentation. And we are privileged to hear a guest presentation regarding efforts to improve the accessibility of the French Quarter neighborhood in New Orleans, Louisiana. This presentation will be given by staff from the City of New Orleans and New Orleans and Company. Following the presentation, we will hold a Q&A session for any board members or staff who have questions for our presenters. I will now turn it to Mr. David to introduce our guest, please.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So we are incredibly lucky to have this group of presenters join us today. This presentation will serve in many ways as a follow-up to our most recent board meeting in New Orleans, Louisiana. Our presenters today will talk to us about their use of Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, to help address accessibility barriers in the French Quarter, which is a historic neighborhood in New Orleans. Our presenters include Jennifer Ruley, who serves as the Mobility and Safety Division Manager for the City of New Orleans Department of Public Works. In this role, She's responsible for mobility, transportation safety, and green stormwater infrastructure initiatives. Our next presenter is Carrie DeMay, who is the Enterprise GIS Manager for Information Technology and Innovation in the City of New Orleans. In this role, her goals are to continue providing reliable spatial data and visual analysis for the city. Our third presenter is Tristan Bagala, who is the Senior Manager of Business Development and Special Projects at New Orleans & Company. His work focuses on promoting large-scale projects, including collaborative programs like UNESCO Creative Cities and the multi-attraction Good Times Pass. Finally, we are also joined by Bob Bell, who is a New Orleans resident and disability advocate. Bob is here to help provide any insights or perspectives as a city resident, particularly during the Q&A that will follow the presentation. And as a note to our guests joining us, today's Q&A session will be limited to Access Board members and staff. With that, I thank all our presenters for being here today, and I invite you now to begin. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, David. This is Jennifer Ruley, and I'm going to give a little background on where this project came from. And some of you have already heard it before, and I apologize, my camera is not working, so apologize for that. This project is a very unique project because of the collaboration of the different entities that were introduced. So my work in Public Works, we often are the ones doing the physical improvements to the space, but we know that those improvements over time need to be checked on, and there are consequences for just operations, that sort of thing, especially in heavily used areas such as the French Quarter, where you have a lot of different traffic, and over time those facilities that were upgraded at one time may fall into a deteriorated state. So we needed a way to update information after we do improvements, and we also needed a way to track less permanent types of obstructions. So things like trash cans, things like sandwich boards, these kind of things that often show up on our sidewalks, but are not part of the physical permanent infrastructure. So this is an opportunity that we looked into once the New Orleans & Company signaled that they were interested in helping us to document these kind of obstructions within the French Quarter. Obviously, the French Quarter is a destination that a lot of tourists come to. So we wanted to see if we could figure out a way to crowdsource information so that the city has this information and can then respond to that information with removal of the barriers or some sort of citations that would assist in clearing sidewalks for people using those sidewalks. So with that, I was going to turn it over to Carrie. Carrie is our GIS manager, and she was able to develop a tool for our use. And then Tristan will talk about how that tool was used.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks, Jen, and thank you everyone for being here. I also apologize. I too am having camera issues. I even borrowed a laptop, and that has kept issues. So, but again, many thanks for being here. For those who are unfamiliar with GIS, again, just kind of a broad definition, GIS is an information system that's driven by spatial awareness, analysis, and visualization, such as maps, applications, and informational dashboards. So at the city, and I started here at the city in 2016. We have a small but mighty team, and from an enterprise level, not only do we help manage authoritative data that's often generated from the expertise in the departments, but we also manage everything from servers, databases, licensing, and how people access this information, to which a lot of our authoritative data is then shared with the public, again, making it accessible for folks to use and and utilize. So when Jen and New Orleans and Company and Tristan approached us kind of about, this problem, at the time, we didn't really have a asset management. Now, we had procured one in the past few years, and actually, let me backtrack, right? So from a time frame standpoint, this was 2024. And so in 2024, we were in preparation for two big events coming that fall and the following winter, one of which was Taylor Swift, and the other one being the Super Bowl. So New Orleans is definitely a city with a lot going on. But those two events kind of specifically, right, really kind of emphasized the need for people coming to the city and being able to get around in both an efficient and safe manner. So again, when Jen and Tristan kind of approached us and say, hey, can you help us kind of design this? I said we can do one better and build it. And so leveraging a lot of the expertise that we had, we were able to create a field map application, which is a Esri product, and Esri being our primary software system that we use. Again, at the time, we hadn't yet procured an asset management system, but I always joke that in order for an asset management system to work, you actually need assets. And though DPW, which is probably our biggest department, from both a data and analytical standpoint, right? A lot of that information comes from a construction project lens, right? You have to plan a lot of this stuff out years in advance, then execute, and then maintain and update. And so all of that is an ongoing challenge. Again, the biggest thing being, though, what does the current picture look like on the outside? And so in times past, we've used a variety of things to kind of generate things, digital data like streetlights, ADA ramps, signage, things like that through both legacy data. We use a company called Cyclomedia, which uses street level imagery and some AI generation to pull out assets, mobile data collection, and then crowdsourcing, which, this one is new for us because of this project. And one of the things that I love about this is that it evolved very organically. And as you'll see, again, the more data, the better. Oops, wrong direction. All right. So with that and kind of the planning stage, as a GIS person, I tend to find myself behind the desk more, but because my background actually is a bit in field data collection, I'm always looking for, the opportunity to be able to collect information in the field. But I do know that what we make in the office doesn't necessarily always translate out into the field as to how it's collected. So we really spent a lot of time kind of, thinking about what is it that we want to look at. So the three kind of main points, and I think Jen touched upon them, right, was sort of general sidewalk condition, curb ramps and panels, and then the big one being permanent and portable instructions. So I had, again, created a form through Esri Field Maps, and then we needed someone to go out and collect data. Now, again, I mentioned this was 2024, so picture it, the summer of 2024, to which I'll turn it over to Tristan, where they can kind of talk about, one, the collection of the first year, right? From a baseline standpoint, and some of the challenges with that.
Definitely, thank you, Carrie. And as Carrie mentioned, I think for the beginning of this, it was really important to us over at New Orleans and Company to make it a sort of iterative process to where we were ensuring that the data that we were collecting was going to actually be both useful for the city and for folks that could later use this map. And so we did some initial test walks with disability advocates, with business owners, with a sort of diverse set of stakeholders from the community to ensure that, you know, while there weren't going to be 100 sets of eyes on every single step of the sidewalk, at least we knew that the data we were collecting was going to be valuable and representative. And so that, as Carrie mentioned, there were sort of 3 distinct layers of that map. And so that required walking every block of the French Quarter on each side of the sidewalk, 3 distinct times, taking different photos, taking different images, and just trying to ensure a sort of consistent product, I guess, for the city to use to be able to make the improvements. Or in our case at New Orleans and Company, we used it to say, hey, you know, actually of the entire universe of sidewalk obstructions, many of them are business signage related. And so, you know, just using that as an opportunity to reach out to our members, reach out to our partner businesses and say, hey, you know, this is the kind of map of what the map of the French Quarter looks like. And we want to make sure that it's more accessible for all. And so this is a sort of example of what that looked like as we were going around to each sidewalk location. There was each layer of the map had different questions to answer so that data would be sortable and useful and consistent. Yeah, it was a extremely rewarding and good project to be a part of. I think, am I passing it back to you, Carrie?
Yes.
Perfect.
And I forget, did you record how many miles you traversed?
Yeah. Our team walked about 150 miles. I walked about 110 of them. So. So like Justine was saying, and actually kind of, I'll have examples kind of that sidewalk condition in the slides coming ahead. So like I said, the first year we've established that baseline. So again, this project sort of evolved organically. So Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl came and went. Both for good times. So in the spring of 2025, the University of New Orleans Transportation Institute had reached out to Jen, and one of the professors said that they had some graduate level students looking for, essentially a project for their summer class, and to which we were like, we've got one. And with the idea that I think it was 7 or 8 students in the class, with the idea that we were going to kind of present what we had done in year 1, and open it up to the students to see where they might be interested, and to take it from a transportation standpoint. Again, with us emphasizing, the importance of, the community lens and the accessibility. But more importantly, having another layer of data now allows us to do comparison from year before. So like Jen, both Jen and Kristen had mentioned, right, from a portable standpoint, is the problem still there? And again, everyone tends to think that, the city's only goal, is enforcement, with the goal of a fine. That's not the case for, a lot of things. Again, it's to kind of promote awareness, and to, what can be, easily changed. In the case of portable obstructions, that might be moving something just a little closer to the building, or trimming hedges more from a permanent standpoint, because there are certain things like we can't necessarily move a utility pole that's already been established, right? But we can become aware of the stuff around us. So having said that, one of the students
decided to expand the geography. This is also sort of another concept that we're hoping to build on, right, is expand outside of the French Quarter. If you've never been to New Orleans, the Marigny and the Frenchman Street are also extremely popular locations. Frenchman Street certainly for its music, and so he did the tough work that Tristan had done with assessing sidewalk condition. And again, this was July in New Orleans, so needless to say, was a little on the warm side. So again, like I said, having a second round, and a lot more help with collecting information, right? Again, we were kind of able to do a bit of that comparison. And as you can see, the difference between, in this case, from the permanent and portable obstructions, right? Again, you can kind of see that comparison from year to year. What this also does is provide, again, some accountability to the city as well. Right now, there is a ton of construction happening in and around, Jackson Square and down along Decatur Street, right? And so many of these portable obstructions are construction equipment or orange cones, things like that. And so we really want to ensure, right, that not only are businesses compliant with, portable obstructions and being aware of it, but that we, the city, are as well, right? Making sure that we're cleaning up after ourselves and being mindful of our community, as well. So year 3, here we are. What's exciting and rewarding is that the possibility for this is endless. There's a lot that can be done. Like I said, expand geography. Just to the other side of the French Quarter is the Central Business District. That is also a very traversed area of the city, as is kind of the main, part of the main corridor to the Superdome. And again, what does that current condition look like? And how do we, improve it going from there? We also have discovered sort of new assets. In the second year, when we started kind of looking at what those permanent assets were, one of the things that stood out obviously were utilities. And one of the things that we noticed, right, are the covers on the utilities and whether or not they were compliant or not. I believe it's in one of the pictures back here. Let me see. So this green plastic cover is a telecommunications cover for that pole directly behind it. If you notice that it's green, that's because it's rated for landscaping, meaning it's designed to be in a bush and not stepped on as frequently as the utility cover to the right, which is more slated for sort of that higher traffic. So again, in kind of doing those in year 2, one of the things, we thought to potentially separate out was that utility layer. And again, to bring back to the utility companies and to say, again, hey, just as an FYI, this utility cover happens to be broken, right? So that's a great example of sort of that year to year. But again, there's a million ways this data can be leveraged. And again, because a lot of our fixed assets from a city standpoint, right, again, come from that construction level, what this kind of allows us to do is sort of get that, sort of that quick picture, right? And rather than having one person do it, like Tristan in year 1, what we noticed in year 2 and in some of the other community data collection projects that we're doing, that opening it up to the community, right, serves a wide range of purposes and has a ton of benefits. Again, the first year we did it was in preparation for two big special events, right? So we kind of have a bit more accurate picture as opposed to the asset, in the asset condition from a planned construction standpoint. Obviously, from a community data collection, there's a big cost effectiveness, right? We unfortunately are in a bit of a budget constraint, and so the more hands, the better. But again, it's not necessarily coming from a city employee standpoint, right? As it's so much more getting the community involved in pointing out some of these challenges. But with challenges, right? Data quality and consistency is a big thing. As we saw, kind of data coming in initially when we did a lot of that testing work, we kind of refined everything from the questions to the categories. I mean, I think we initially started out maybe with 7 different types and added from there as we went out there and realized that buskers are also portable obstructions when they have an entire van sitting, set up on the sidewalk. And then obviously the other challenges just with technology in general, for instance, device connectivity limitations, access to the software, the application, and so on and so forth. So with that, I open it up to any comments, questions, ideas. Again, I've loved how this has evolved. We're always, again, looking for ideas to broaden it. Again, be it geography or more people contributing more information. I mean, the system and the city is only going to get better with more information. And fast forward from when we started it, we are in the phase 3 of our asset data implementation. So to procure the software and bringing all of this, information in. And so then where, this could help sort of emphasize the work that's being driven, right? Is again, what does the French Quarter look like before a major event? What does it look like from an accessibility standpoint, right before Mardi Gras? Kind of those low-hanging fruits that, will benefit somebody, especially if there's an intersection where, 3 out of the ADA ramps are broken for whatever reason, things like that. So again, really looking forward to building on this, and thank you again for letting us present.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And thank you all for sharing all this really great information with us. We really appreciate it. So now, after hearing all that, I want to open it up to our board members and to staff and to our liaisons and to other federal partners joining us. Open it up to see if anyone has any questions for any of our presenters regarding this information we just learned about. Mr. Chair, you have your hand raised?
Yes, sir. And thank you very much for great presentation. I do have a specific question in regards of the corner curb ramp conditions assessment. It is my hope that at some point you all are working or joining forces with the with other entities right there in New Orleans. But the question is, how soon do they will respond to after this assessment, after you find that a curve condition is really needs to be fixed? And how would you report that, or how soon they will be aware of this, or what will be the strategy for you to send that information to them and get it fixed? Because that is what we are looking for at the end, right?
Correct. I was gonna say, I know Jen had to leave at 1:30. Is she still on? I think she might have.
Yeah,
She
it looks
might
like
have.
Jim had a dropout.
Okay. To which, she's really kind of the best person to sort of to speak on that. What I can speak to, I guess, is from a reporting standpoint. So with the asset management system that we have, that's certainly integrated with our 311. And one of the functionalities of the system, right, is condensing like being able to concentrate calls in an area so that we can, sort of see if there's duplication being reported, about the same asset in this case, right? If this curb ramp right is received, let's say like seven separate calls specific to it. And like I said, that's an analysis that we're only just now able to explore because of our system, of this new system in our test environment, right? Starting to see a lot of that information, which is great, right? As opposed, kind of concentrating on, hey, a lot of people have called about this problem, sort of this is, something that, we need to fix. Also, I do know that, folks are, a bit more communicative with, let's say, like their council person, things like that. So there's ways to get that information up as to what specific asset, to fix. So I like to think too that there's always a priority, especially, from an ADA standpoint. But again, Jen's the best person kind of to answer that timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Ben Nadolski, you have a question?
Yeah, this is Ben speaking. I just want to say I really enjoyed the presentation, and I enjoyed hearing about this project, the mapping project, when we were in New Orleans. I just had a quick question. Is this being used at all to help inform future like city development projects? It seems like there are a lot of lessons learned from the mapping of like hard points or things that may be fixed or are like permanent now in the old districts that could be changed in the future in new city developments. So I just want to see if that was being at all used in some way with either Public Works or something else with the city.
That's always a big part of my job, is championing GIS from that angle, right? Let us help you plan for better decisions. To which we do have a new mayor as of January, and so I'm really hoping to kind of sort of resurrect, well, not resurrect, but to kind of champion not only this but sort of other applications and programs, right, that kind of support all of this from a bigger picture standpoint, right? This is just sort of one piece of, kind of that larger public works project planning. And again, since this, kind of is more concentrated, let's say like around a highly trafficked, tourist, area, that, again, kind of being used to make more informed decisions. I was thinking about it the other day. I lived in the Quarter for 9 years, recently moved in April. And so I was just down there just the other week for something. And, with this presentation, on the forefront of my mind, right, looking around, there's been a lot of construction that has shifted for all the reasons. And there's a lot of construction that has been completed, right? And so again, I would love, in this year 3, right, again, to kind of do that work to see how that's changed, right? Because we can only kind of show analysis from a fixed asset standpoint. Again, projects take, kind of a long time, and, a lot of the stuff with the curb ramp are built into those, right? And so again, a lot of this was kind of from an awareness standpoint, because, folks call all the time and say, well, you haven't fixed this, you haven't fixed this ramp, but meanwhile, the entire road is torn up. And so, a lot of that kind of rolls in. But my goal My goal is to continue to, advocate, not only for this application and again, kind of the power of what community input provides, right? Again, we have a community program to plant trees. So a lot of organizations here have that essentially the same app, obviously different questions, but are using that to enter it into the system, which after a 2-year period of time, Parks and Parkways approves, and then it actually is going to roll into our official tree inventory on our database. And so I'm really hoping that, again, from a mobile accessibility standpoint, right, that we can further build and stabilize this application, right, to potentially be something that, when folks are here or before a special event, do some level of either crowdsourcing, right, or data collection to plan for, let's say, like a bigger influx of folks in the city.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Carrie. And I was just going to say, the tree example is a perfect one of deploying the map to see potentially where, trees or fixed objects or assets were placed previously. In a decade, those trees will grow roots and tear up the sidewalk and everything else. So good to be on the front end of planning on those types of items, and appreciate
Absolutely. And
all your work.
And actually, this is going to be our third planting year as well, to which we added a planning component in that folks can drop, let's say, the tree and the species, right, to get approval, because some trees are more damaging than others. Really kind of drive work there. And it's very exciting to see, especially for somebody who built it, because I can put in, my test point for my desk and make sure that it's all, works. But what I love more than anything, right, is, let's say, like coming back a week later and all of a sudden opening the map and, having it populate, because, people have to use it in order for it to work. And sometimes getting people to adopt a technology is very challenging for a slew of reasons. But we're having a lot of successes, and taking it to a more practical community level, as opposed to more of a highly technical, bureaucratic level, when it comes to engineering and construction, which is why we kept a lot of the questions very simple, right? Is it broken? Yes or no, right? I'm not expecting folks to bust out a measuring tape, right? Can you get a standard wheelchair between this utility pole and, these set of stairs? And to the point about planning, in 2020, we were aware of essentially folks installing infrastructure preemptively without really taking a look at what exists around it, be it a competitive utility company, right? Or just even the fact that, you put it right between a set of stairs, and, where even if I'm pulling, let's say, like a wagon, I wouldn't be able to get through.
Well, thank you very much, Carrie. At this point, we do need to move on to our next agenda item, but I want to thank you and Jen and Tristan, Bob, again for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And if any of our board members or liaisons or staff have any further questions for anyone who joined us today, please feel free to send them to me and I'll send them along.
David, can I just throw in a quick comment for you?
Absolutely.
Just want to say, we do have a new mayor, and then we also have a deputy mayor. And for those that visited last July, you met Kevin Ferguson, and he came to a few of the events. And Kevin had a saying that he had a friend who had a disability, and that friend said when he went to other cities, he realized his disability and felt his disability. And Kevin, who was with New Orleans and Company, said that he wanted, when people came to New Orleans, that he didn't want them to feel their disability. So as far as being optimistic about what this new administration may bring, I think there's reasons to be optimistic. And then I just wanted to add, from a really positive note, I could say a bunch of things, but from your visit alone, so I'm 36 years in a wheelchair, quadriplegic, been in New Orleans for 4 years. The streetcar system has improved dramatically with the number of accessible streetcars since your visit, the timeliness of the buses. And then one thing that people with disabilities will understand more than maybe others, the way that they're treated using these public transportations. The integrity, I think it has to do with your visit, the administration at RTA, and it's, if nothing else, I haven't seen the report. I'm on the Mayor Advisory Council. I haven't seen your recommendations. I don't think it's been brought to our attention, but if nothing else happened, you improved dramatically the transportation infrastructure here, and you should all be very proud of the work you did.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Bob. That's really very heartening to hear, and we do very much look forward to continuing our relationship with you and with your colleagues in the city. So thank you very much for saying that.
Please come visit New Orleans.
We will for sure. So with that, I want to thank all of our presenters again, and Mr. Chair, I will turn the program back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David, and thank you very much to our presenters. Great memories from New Orleans visit, so we look forward to visit you all again. Certainly, this is a follow-up visit through the virtual way to everything that happened during our visit, so thank you again. And now we are going to transition to the standing committee reports. I am going to start with the Planning and Evaluation Committee. Tina Gannett, Chair, Amy Nieves, Staff Liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Planning and Evaluation Committee continues to work alongside staff as we plan for the upcoming out-of-town board meeting in my home state of Rhode Island. The board meeting will take place throughout the state from May 5th through May 7th in 2026. The agenda for this board meeting will include panel discussions with local leaders in government and accessibility, site visits to veterans and community venues, engagements in arts, culture, and tourism, and with the Rhode Island disability community. Furthermore, the Access Board's annual town hall meeting will take place on Tuesday, May 5th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Bally's Lincoln Event Center in Lincoln, Rhode Island. This session will provide an opportunity for board to hear directly from Rhode Islanders regarding the state of accessibility and their community. This will include both accessibility barriers and successes that they have encountered in their daily lives. The town hall will be followed by an informal networking session from 3 to 4 p.m. between the public board members, staff, representatives from different federal agencies. We will be doing a lot and having the first Rhode Island Accessibility Summit, along with learning a lot about arts, culture, and tourism throughout the state. The full Rhode Island Town Hall announcement registration details and other board meeting information will be available soon on the Access Board's website and social media. Finally, during the April 2025 board meeting in Washington, D.C., following an initial vote by the Planning and Evaluation Committee, the board voted to hold the 2027 out-of-town board meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. This meeting will provide a unique opportunity for the board to learn the state of accessibility in Middle Tennessee. Staff are planning to conduct an initial pre-visit to begin planning for the board meeting sometime in the fall of 2026. This concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tina. We continue with the Technical Programs Committee. Benjamin Nodosky, Chair, Josh Shore, Staff Liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At Tuesday's meeting of the Technical Programs Committee, Staff Liaison Josh Shore presented the board with an overview of the number of technical assistance requests for fiscal year 2025, broken down by inquiry method and if the inquiries were about the built environment or 508 requirements. Deborah Martins presented the board with the number of trainings performed by staff in fiscal year 2025, along with the total number of attendees. In addition, she informed the board which topics will be covered in the upcoming webinars for the built environment in section 508. Josh Shore then showed the board the current status of the Chapter 7 guides for detectable warning surfaces, fire alarms and telephones, and two-way communication systems. He broke down the differences between the ADA and ABA versions of each guide, as well as the content of each guide. Josh will send the documents for review and feedback by board members, encouraging input for illustrations and common questions. A response date will be included when the documents are sent. During the meeting, time was dedicated to a conversation among all board members regarding both the Technical Programs Committee and the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance. Mr. Chair, this concludes my report solely for the Technical Programs Committee. I would like to pass the rest of my time to the Chair of the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance, Olivia, to provide additional information about the conversation held concerning both committees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. A long discussion was held with board members about potentially dissolving the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance initiated by myself, the committee's chair. Board members discussed incorporating the duties of the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance into the Technical Programs Committee to ensure that development of the guides continues. Votes were held by both committees with unanimous consent among the present committee members to dissolve the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance and incorporate its functions into the Standing Committee of Technical Programs. The committee chairs of both the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance and the Technical Programs Committee would like to make a motion for the whole board to vote to dissolve the Ad Hoc Committee for Design Guidance and incorporate its functions into the Standing Technical Programs Committee. If there are no further questions, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you both for those two reports, and we will be pretty much taking action in regards of the both committees joining forces just for one. Thank you so very much again. We continue now with the Budget Committee. Stephanie Injard, Chair. India Thomas, Staff Liaison.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Stephanie is unable to present right now, so I'll be stepping in. For our budget for fiscal year 25, at the end of the fiscal year, we spent approximately 99% of our full year budget of $9.9 million. $5.2 million was spent on personnel expenses and $4.6 million on operating expenditures. Operating expenditures include all expenses incurred and obligated to operate, such as our administrative support services contracts, IT support services, space management, and staff and board travel. Overall spending was within budgeted amount. For fiscal year 2026, we are currently operating on a continuing resolution through this Friday, January 30th. The Access Board received a total of $3.3 million to maintain operations until a final budget is passed or another CR is approved. The Access Board does expect to receive a total of $9.9 million for fiscal year 26 as reflected in our previously approved passback. We anticipate providing an update on the fiscal year 26 budget during the May 2026 board meeting. Moving on, for fiscal year 2027, we have submitted our fiscal year 2027 budget request on September 4th. Our proposal included two funding options as requested by OMB, which included one with the president's funding level and the second at our requested level of $10.1 million. In December 2025, we did receive our 2027 budget passed back, and it also provides for $9.9 million for the Access Board. That means there's no changes, no decreases to our previous year budget, which is a great thing. This funding aligns with our anticipated 2027 funding level requests. That concludes the budget report at this time. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Chris, I do know that you please do the follow-up in regards of the previous motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, if you please follow up in regards of the motion previously stated by Olivia.
Yes, the motion was to dissolve the ad hoc committee on design guidance and incorporate its functions into the standing committee on technical programs. My question is, do we have a quorum, and are you going to bring that motion to a vote at this time?
I think that we do have a quorum, right, Mr. David? Sorry to jump into you right now.
Yes, sir, we do have a quorum.
If we do, that vote could be taken by voice vote. There's no need to call the roll, but only board members may vote.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, before we proceed, we did have a few members drop off. I very quickly want to double check that we do have a quorum before we go forward.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, sir, we do not have a quorum anymore, unfortunately.
Understanding. So since we do not have a quorum, Mr. Chris, would you please advise?
The vote can be taken by notation vote pursuant to the board's bylaws.
Thank you.
A notation vote could be circulated sometime after the meeting, and board members would have 5 days within which to vote.
Great. Thank you, sir. Very appreciate your intervention.
welcome.
So we have clear about that piece. It didn't mean to be forgotten or misplaced. It's just that I needed to do the follow-up. Thank you both.
Yes, of course.
In that case, we are now going to continue with the Frontier Issues Committee. Madeline Ruvolo, Chair, Deborah Martins, and Staff Liaison.
Mr. Chair, at Monday's meeting of the Committee on Frontier Issues, the board heard 2 presentations on accessible wayfinding. Dr. Alan C. Scott, PhD, President of Accessible Design for the Blind, presented research and guidance on the use of tactile walking surface indicators for pedestrians with vision disabilities. The presentation reviewed human factors research conducted on 3 types of walking surfaces to aid wayfinding for pedestrians with vision disabilities: detectable warning surfaces, tactile directional indicators, and tactile warning delineators. Dr. Scott discussed that each of these surfaces have a different communication purpose. Detectable warning surfaces are specifically a warning surface, not a directional cue. They communicate a warning and a reason to stop, such as when at a street or transit platform, but are intended to be crossed. They are not a boundary or a barrier. Tactile directional indicators communicate directional information. The direction of the bars can help a pedestrian with a vision disability to find something, navigate somewhere, or align themselves for some movement they want to make, such as aligning with a crosswalk. Tactile warning delineators communicate that a pedestrian should not cross the surface. Their intention is to provide an accessible boundary cue where detectable warning surfaces are not appropriate. One example is separation of pedestrians and cyclists. The presentation demonstrated the considerable research evidence that supports the design and use of tactile walking surface indicators. Dr. Scott's most recent research can be found in the Transit Cooperative Research Program, or TCRP, report, Tactile Wayfinding in Transportation Settings for Travelers Who Are Blind or Visually Impaired. The board members heard a second presentation from Mira Phillipson, Senior Innovation Strategist at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, MTA, in New York, on accessible transportation wayfinding technology for public transit environments. Ms. Phillipson summarized the MTA's experience researching, testing, and implementing app-based wayfinding solutions. The presentation started with a comparison of accessible wayfinding technology solutions on the market based on MTA's field testing. The core of the presentation focused on MTA's deployment and use of NaviLens, which aids users with vision disabilities, and its companion platform, NaviLens Go, which is primarily for sighted users. Ms. Phillipson noted that NaviLens technology can help navigate a person directly to a NaviLens code location as opposed to some other wayfinding apps that direct the person somewhere in the vicinity of their final destination. The presentation discussed a SMART grant project that allowed MTA to add NaviLens codes to a full subway line and a full bus route. Ms. Phillipson shared that transit riders were very satisfied with using NaviLens in the subway station, on a subway train, as well as on the bus and at the project route bus stops. The presentation concluded with general recommendations on how partners can collaborate to identify the most effective solutions for riders, as well as how federal agencies can support public transit agencies in identifying and funding the best options. An engaging discussion with board members and United States Access Board staff followed the presentations. If there are no questions, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you so very much. And thank you all for pretty much doing the presentation of those reports. I will continue now with the Election Assistance Commission and Elver Arisa Silva and Stephanie Inyard, board representatives, Kathy and staff liaison. But at this moment, Mr. Benjamin Nadolski is going to read the report. If you please, Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Election Assistance Commission mission is to improve election administration and ensure access for all voters, including those with disabilities. This report includes much of the 2025 activities since we have not provided an EAC report since early last year. Elver Arisa Silva and Stephanie Einert serve on the EAC Board of Advisors, while myself serve on the Technical Guidelines Development Committee and will continue until a new nominee is confirmed. Elver, Stephanie, and the Executive Director attended the EAC Board of Advisors meeting in May 2025. Key highlights of the meeting included security risk of electronic voting systems, accessibility of paper ballot verification, technology upgrades, and policy development of the next elections. Concerns were raised about implementation of Executive Order 14248, preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections, guidelines and resources for post-election audits and maintenance, and accuracy of voter registration lists. The Board of Advisors reviewed 2 EAC reports in January 2026. The Technical Guidelines Development Committee, TGDC, held several meetings in 2025 to amend the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines 2.0 to remove the use of barcodes in vote counting and provide a voter verifiable paper record as required by the executive order preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections. The paper record mandate introduces accessibility concerns for voters with disabilities that were not resolved in the last TGDC meeting in September 2025. Myself and Elver attended the TGDC meeting and provided comments. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so very much. Now we are going to continue with the next item, which is the federal agency update. It is time now to turn to our federal partners on the Access Board for news and updates you would like to share. This is for the member or the designated liaison to report. If you are unable to unmute, please send a message to David O'Keefe. Any federal partner that would like to share any update, please? I don't see any hand raised. Mr. David, you may have some notes on the chat, please.
No notes in the chat and no hands raised.
Okay. Thank you, sir. In that case, we are going to go and move on into the next section, which is new business. At this time, I am opening the floor to new business. Are there any members who would like to raise any new items at this time? No pressure at all, but if there is not comment or no new business, so we are going to move into the adjourned section. Finally, and before we adjourn, I would like to invite everyone to join us for this year's Town Hall meeting in the state of Rhode Island on Tuesday, May 5th from 1 to 3 p.m. at Valley's Lincoln Event Center. The town hall will take place during our out-of-town board meeting in Rhode Island and will provide a fantastic opportunity for the board to learn more about accessibility barriers and successes in the state. The official announcement and meeting details will be available on the Access Board website and social media very soon. Until then, our staff will be working diligently on trainings and webinars, developing and updating technical assistance and guidance documents, processing ABA complaints, and so much more. It is an incredible amount of work for everyone all around, and for that, you have my personal thanks and gratitude for your continued support and dedication, indeed. Before I do make a motion to adjourn, would you please let me know if there is something left, Mr. David and or Mr. Sachin, that I should to address at this point?
Hold on.
Nothing on my end, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin. Mr. David?
No, sir. I think we've gotten it all taken care of.
Thank you very much. So do I hear a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. In that case, we will see each other again in May. We stand adjourned. Everyone, thank you so very much and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.